On this episode of the podcast, I am speaking with Jen Coken about imposter syndrome. We are recording this call 2 days before I speak at the Miami crypto experience, and I'm definitely going through my own stuff about imposter syndrome. She walks me through this experience and gives me tools to feel more peaceful, grounded, and feeling more capable about going in to speak to this event, which is an in-person event that has thousands of people coming and is also being broadcast globally. So if you are a human and you are reaching higher and you are creating bigger goals and you are expanding outside of your comfort zone, you are sure to bump up against some imposter syndrome. It's totally normal. Have a listen to this conversation and get some support in dealing with this yourself. There is definitely some gold in this call. Enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to the Wealth Alchemist podcast. My name is Carrie Norley, and today I have this beautiful woman, Jen Coken, on the platform, on the stage with me. And she is recognized by ABC, MSNBC, and TEDx as a speaker, peak performance coach, and imposter syndrome expert. She's also a comedian who works with people who are looking to make a bigger difference. She shatters the limiting beliefs that plague people at this level with her unique style centered around ruthless compassion. I love that Jen talks imposter syndrome, and that's what we are going to talk about today. And before I even got on this call with you, Jen, I had just said this and I said, we're going to record it anyway. I'm going to say what's happening. I am in Miami currently, in between two crypto events. And I'm about to go onto the biggest stage I have actually ever been on personally. And it's my first time on a local stage. There's about 3,000 people that are supposed to be approximately at this event. And it's virtual as well. So it's global and local. And I have definitely been having my imposter syndrome stuff come up. So it was no funny, strange coincidence that Jen somehow, even though I blocked out this week on the schedule, managed to get onto the podcast today. There is no doubt in my mind that we're having this conversation for the right reason today. And so today I welcome Jen onto the call to have a conversation about imposter syndrome. And we're going to have a little chat about what's going on in the world with my life as I step onto the stage of crypto stage. So welcome.
Well, thank you. I am so loving being here. And I said to you that although it wasn't the biggest stage, I was keynoting this morning. And as I'm getting ready, I literally wound up doing my eye makeup 3 different times. I was like sweating. I thought I was having a hot flash. I'm like, am I having a hot flash? I'm like sweating. I'm a little shaky, And I thought, oh, and I'm going over this topic in my mind, which I've spoken about. Can't even count how many times. I'm like, oh, it's imposter syndrome. So I will say to you, my friend, what I say to my clients, which is if you don't have some kind of imposter syndrome, you aren't playing a big enough game.
I was just going to say you're not human, but
yeah, you're not human for sure. And you're not playing a big enough game because it always happens when we're stretching ourselves.
Amazing. So before we even drop into the conversation, deeper, can you please explain what to the people who are listening, if they don't know what this means, what is imposter syndrome?
Yeah. So the word syndrome we really should be saying imposter phenomenon, but the SEO ranks dang high for imposter syndrome, doesn't it? Because it's not a medically diagnosed situation. It is a phenomenon, and it's a phenomenon that happens for people that are high achievers who feel like, uh-oh, I might be a fraud. Uh-oh, I might be found out. And it was originally discovered, or I'm going to say named, by 2 psychological researchers back in the 70s, Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes. So that's when it was first discovered. And they thought originally it was mostly women that had it, not men, because men have more testosterone, and testosterone is thought of as the confidence hormone. But in fact, according to research, 70% of most people who have a career have experienced self-doubt or experienced fraud in some way, shape, or form. Now, that was kind of the beginning of it. All right. And you're not alone. We're not alone. Margaret Chan, who is head of the World Health Organization, experienced it. She didn't like being called an expert. And given what we just went through over the last couple of years, having someone who considers themselves an expert at the head of the World Health Organization, kind of want that. I'm just saying. Maya Angelou, felt that, oh, even writing her 12th book, she was afraid of a knock on the door to say, you've run a game on everybody. Albert Einstein, E equals MC squared much. He felt like he was an involuntary swindler. And I have a Google alert that pops up. There's all kinds of famous people that you'd never think of that have the same kind of doubts that you and I have. So that's where it comes from, like the beginning of it, the origins of imposter phenomenon or syndrome.
Yeah, it's a big one. And it's interesting because I, like you said, it really shows up for most, like I know for me and others in the industry who are in stretching ourselves. It's like, oh my God, who am I? This is the question that usually comes to me when I know it's imposter syndrome. Who am I to be doing this? Right? It's like, who the hell do I think I am? I'm just this, like it comes to me like I'm just a human who has human stuff. And somehow people kind of think that I know something. And I'm like, I suppose when I sit into it, I'm like, I guess I do know something, right? Like I have positioned myself to know things. And I do know things. I've studied and all these things. But the inner dialogue comes like, who are you? Who the hell do you think you are? And so I'd love to hear a little bit about like how, because I also know, I think for you, there's multiple, I feel like there's multiple different avenues or different, I guess, almost like archetypes that you look at with imposter syndrome. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about first the neuroscience of imposter syndrome. This is why, you look on the internet, there's 2.4 million tips to overcome imposter syndrome. And then when I Googled, well, if I'm trying to disrupt it, 6.4 million more hits on disrupting imposter syndrome, but nobody talked about disrupting it. They came back to overcoming it. And trying to overcome something that's based in neuroscience won't last or make a difference. So think about it. The brain, and I'm saying the brain, not your brain, the brain that keeps the thing called you alive, 40,000 years of evolution, its job is to do just that. Its job is to determine threat, kind of scan the horizon. Oh gosh, that thing coming at me, is that going to eat me or am I going to eat it? But the kicker about the brain is it can't tell the difference between real and imaginary. In fact, we now know that whatever the memories are that we have, the brain isn't even determining reality at the moment. It's taking everything through its filters, right? So what happens is when the brain experiences threat, when it experiences an unwanted emotion like embarrassment, disappointment, or thinking about, my gosh, I'm going to be on the biggest stage I've ever been on before. Who am I? It thinks that's an actual threat coming at you. So the body's physical response, the sweaty armpits, the butterflies in your stomach.
Waking up in anxiety.
Yeah, waking up in anxiety, waking up in a cold sweat, imagining everything that could go wrong because the brain's trying to make sure that you have all the doorways out, right? So the moments that those are happening, you're coming by it. Honestly, it's simply neuroscience and it's brain patterns that you are tapping into in those moments. Now, what most coaches are talking about when they talk about tips, tools, and tricks, they're telling you to overcome something. And why I don't agree with that is because the thing you're trying to come over has to stay there in order for you to.
You still have to go to the stage.
Still have to go to the stage. And if you're trying to manage your emotions, don't. Well, we want to actually do. So there's Dr. Valerie Young, through decades of research, wrote a book called The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women. And she looks at competency types for imposter syndrome. These are the ways that high achievers have attempted to overcome their experience of feeling like a fraud. Those 5 are people who are perfectionists, who try to get everything right 100% of the time. These are also your micromanagers, the people that are highly critical of themselves. Second type, superwoman, superman, got to work all the time. Downtime's a waste. I judge myself by how much I work to their own detriment, putting their own passions aside. The soloist, the people who hate asking for help. I can do it better myself. I don't trust anyone else to do as good of a job. I can do it faster, better, etc. if I just do it myself. The natural genius, which is something I always identified with because I skipped 2nd grade. School came easy to me. Also meant I didn't apply myself very hard. But more than that, what I learned through the years is if I couldn't see a clear pathway from A to B, I would procrastinate. Because everything came naturally, I should be able to see the path. And it wasn't until I took time to just be still and allow myself, because before that, I thought procrastination was my superpower. I do my best work when I'm up against the wall, except it stresses the F out of me,
Yes.
and it's not productive for me or
I'm
anybody
working on
else.
that one. I'm working on not procrastinating till the end. I'm like, oh my God, why does it have to be the last minute, Carrie? It feels shit.
Yes. And we can talk more about that, but schedule some still time, schedule some time for you just to think. That's what's really, really important. Okay. We went through Superman, perfectionist,
Soloist, natural genius.
Yep. And then I'm missing a fifth one, and it will come to me in just a minute. It's not coming to me right now, but let me talk about what I see as the distinct difference, which is after coaching people 25 years, coaching thousands of people, what I have discerned is that most people, when something's triggering them, it's based in some memory that they made up a story about that memory from when they were a kid, not dramatic or traumatic, something innocuous. So for me, my origin story, as it were, is that I was 6 years old and I was in love with a boy named Keith. And so was my best friend. And we decided in Michigan in winter, we were going to playfully chase him around the schoolyard and then push him down and see who he kissed. So we did that. And my friend Michelle puckered up and he kissed her. And I puckered up and he went, ew. Yeah. Heartbroken. Oh, the final one is the expert. That was the other one that I missed, the expert, which is the one we're going to talk about with you. The expert has to have a lot of letters after their name. They have to know everything before they feel set to go. Right. So going back to my origin story, this happened and I was embarrassed. So the brain has an unwanted emotion, embarrassment, disappointment. My friends laughed because all the other kids were watching. They laughed. And the decision I made was I'm never putting myself out there like that again. So what did I spend most of my career doing? Getting other people elected in politics, pushing other people's agenda. And when it came time for me to take center stage, that's when imposter syndrome rears its ugly head. And it's not in a position of authority, me to one person, it's in group, like when I was getting ready to speak this morning, because the brain thinks it's about to be ridiculed. So I'm going to stop there because I said a lot, but we can slice and dice it any way you want.
It's so good. And I can feel myself in each one of those.
Yes.
Like, I'd say we all probably have some level of each one of those. Like there's definitely days that I'm like, oh, I need to feel like I just need to keep going. There's so much to do. I'm like, stop, take a breath. There's really not that much to do. What do you need to get done? Take the steps. Right.
Yeah.
And it's been a thing I've had to train myself on for sure, because I can get into the overwhelm and I'm like, Carrie, you really have like 3 things. Just get them done. The mind, right? Okay, so let's hear. I want to hear what you have to say then to me as we're going on to the stage in this expert thing and how to overcome these. Like, so how do you work with people to overcome? Not overcome. Sorry, you don't like that word.
Disrupt.
To disrupt. I was going to say
uproot or disrupt. Well, not even coming through, because this is what I say. I take people from being average leaders to being great leaders. Average leaders deal inside of a box called knowledge of what they already know or what more they can read and add to that box of knowledge, right? Or they've seen other leaders and this is the way other people do it. And so I should do it that way, but it's still all inside of a realm called knowledge, which makes sense. I mean, I should not get in the cockpit of a plane and tell somebody I'm going to fly the plane because I don't know how. So it's good to know that I don't know how to fly the plane. What takes people from average to great is being able to see the unseen, being in a mode of discovery, being willing to, look and discover and wonder about where this all comes from. So let's talk about this perspective of being the expert. How long do you suppose that's been around?
It's funny that you thought that we went to there, because for me, in a lot of ways, I think about this, and if I look back at my life, I have more degrees and diplomas and certifications. Oh my God. Early childhood degree, and then diplomas in leadership and creative expression, massage, integrated body therapies. I've done more certificates than I could probably list off in here, from health to feng shui to quantum healing to emotional clearing, all these things, right? So it's probably like every year there's probably something new. But I don't look at it for me as needing an expert. Like, I actually could care less about a certificate on the wall, because and it's why you wouldn't, if you look at any of my, I guess, websites or anything like that, I don't even list them, I don't think, because for me, it's just, I just love education. I love learning more. And I would actually normally say, like, even to the point where like, I love the scene in Goodwill Hunting when Matt Damon's like, you know, for like pennies, you know, for dollars on my library card, look at them apples, right? Like I have her, but I did it because I've got my Harvard degree
right
from the library, while you just had to go and spend 100K to do it, right?
Right.
I kind of have that feeling. It's just like, if you're educated and you learn something and you embody it and you go and you can express it, you have the right to teach it.
So what's the big deal about getting up on stage today? See, if that was the case, you wouldn't be dealing with this right now. So knowledge doesn't equal power. I get what you're saying. There's a lot of people, you know, one of the assessment tools I use with my clients is Clifton Strengths, which assesses talent. And there are people who are learners and who just love learning. You could be somebody who loves learning, but I'm suspicious because you're like, well, who am I to like get on stage with these people? Why are they going to listen to me?
You're right. You're right.
So where does that come from?
So I think for me right now, one of the things is like, I actually feel really great about the workshop that I'm running. Like, I feel like, yes, I can deliver this content. This is in my lane, right? When they asked me to be on the panel for the DeFi panel, which, by the way, if you're listening, I don't know, it's still not confirmed. I'm a day out from this. We're still not confirmed, but this is the stuff that's coming up for me around it. It was like, oh, what if they ask me something I don't know? Right. And I am sitting amongst all of a sudden people who've been in this for a long time. But the reality is, like, DeFi in and of itself has been around for like 3 years. Like, it's not even like a timing issue, and it changes every day. Every day new stuff comes into this field. So like, on a logical perspective, I understand that. On a logical perspective, I've been studying this for like half the amount of time that it's been around, and I've been utilizing it and doing it on a logical perspective. But then I'm like, but what if I don't know? What if they ask me something I don't know? What if those other people know more? What if they get into the technical stuff and I'm over my head and I look like a fool?
Okay, good. So there's 2 clues here for us. One is feeling foolish, and one is not knowing the answer. So if you close your eyes for a minute, you drop into your body. When you think about not knowing the answer or feeling foolish, where do you feel that in your body?
It kind of runs through my body, but mostly in my heart. It feels like butterflies or like electricity through my body.
Okay, great. So electricity through your heart. So keep your eyes closed and go back to the earliest memory you have where you felt foolish. And you might only be able to connect with it through that experience in your heart of feeling when your heart was tight or closed, or that electricity.
It's funny because I can sense, like, I'm on a playground and I'm like, is this me or Jen? Did Jen tell me this story? That's why I'm going there. But I keep going back to like me on a playground somewhere, like on my school playground.
You're on a school playground. Okay, great. So I want you to really see the scene, and I want you to describe it to me like you're watching a scene in a movie. You know, what's happening? What are you wearing? If you can tell, how many kids, what time of day, what's the equipment on the playground?
It's funny because I haven't connected in with like where I am in this, but I definitely, it's like the lunchtime where there's a lot of kids out. I see Foursquare, I see kickball. I just see everybody in kind of chaos everywhere.
And what are you? Where are you?
Where am I? I sense that I'm playing Foursquare.
You're playing Foursquare. Okay, great. And are you free and freely running around?
Okay, so I don't have the visual very well, so I'm sensing things, right?
That's
fine.
So
I'm sensing that I just got a ball knocked into my face and it's like blood. I don't remember this happening, but this is what I'm sensing.
Okay, great. So you're sensing that a ball got knocked into your face, and the moment that you got hit in the face with the ball, what do you suppose you decided about yourself or about life or about playing?
That if I go into the game, if I play the game, I'll get knocked out.
Awesome. There you have it. So when you think about, if I really go in and play the game, your eyes just got really bright, you'll get knocked out. How does that layer on top of your life? When have you held back because you figured you'd get knocked out, or where did you get knocked out when you went to play the game?
I mean, like, it makes sense here, right? Like, I'll get knocked out and I won't be able to get back on these stages if I go in and I mess this up.
Yep. You won't be able to play again.
I won't be able to play again. And I would say, well, even it took me a while to like do things like my book and my podcast, because if I went and played the game, then I was going to get disowned by my family. So it took me a long time to get through that one, to say yes to it, because I was afraid I'd get knocked out.
Yeah.
And even then, right, like writing the book and everything, I did it eventually, but like putting your words on a piece of paper and having people read it, like, oh my God, someone's going to knock me out. Someone's going to say you're dumb. Someone's going to say you don't know what you're doing. Someone's going to say you're a jackass. Someone's going to say something, right? Everybody's got some judgment somewhere along the way. Put enough words onto enough pieces of paper.
Frickin' humans. Humans are judgmental creatures. We are, you know,
even this show, right? Like someone out there listening right now is probably judging me at some level.
Absolutely. Every time I lead a webinar about imposter syndrome, I start off saying there's nothing for you to agree or disagree with. What I'm saying isn't the truth. And I always see a comment, I don't agree with you. I'm like, there you go. So back to you. Let me ask you something. You're afraid to play because you're afraid you're going to get knocked out. But who are you at your core? Like, really, when you're truly being yourself?
I'm a light. I'm amazing.
Aren't you super freaking playful?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's who you really are. So you were playing and having fun, except that little kid said, if I play, I'll get knocked out. But who you really are is super playful. So now what there is for you to go to work on is just to notice the triggers, and particularly where you're feeling it in your heart, like, ooh, that's that pattern again. And just start noticing the red flags and early warning signs. And what I say to people is, if you imagine, I forgot, this is a vlogcast, right? It's a video so people can see me. Okay, great.
Yep, it's both.
Okay, great. Audio and video. So I'm holding up a, what is this? It's an orange, it's like a thing for your nails. So I'm holding up a stick. It's a straight line for people that are listening. If there's a line of, this is presence. Okay. This is the line of presence. Everything below the line is all reactivity, triggers, life. The average human brain is 50 to 60,000 thoughts a day. Yours is probably like 100,000 thoughts a day. 80 to 85% are negative. 90 to 95% are repetitive. We are screwed. We don't stand a chance, because all the brain has been doing is discerning threat and trying to keep us safe, which in the moment you got hit in the nose with the ball, who knows what you felt: embarrassment, disappointment, anger, fear, etc. Brain's like, ooh, don't want to do that again. I've got to be careful. Whenever I'm really playing full out, I could get hit in the nose with the ball, right? But all that's reactivity. All of it is reactivity. The moment we notice we're having, a reaction, we're no longer reacting. We're human with reaction. Oh, far out. Okay. Now I'm present. Okay. Now I was standing in the bathroom trying to put on my eyeliner, which was like, I was like drawing Vincent Van Gogh on my eyes until I finally got my act together. I swear to God. And I said, oh, that's what it is. Now I'm present. Okay. The question then can become, because if below the line is all reactivity, what's above the line is everything and anything, is actually nothing. And great masters need nothing to create, right? Great artists need a blank canvas. Human beings create with language. So we can ask ourselves the question: the moment that we catch the reaction, we're present, we can have presence. And I like to say presence of mind, body, soul, and spirit. Mind to think clearly, body to embody the kind of leader we want to be, soul to speak our truth, and spirit to move through us. If you don't like spirit or God, you call it Bob, your dog, a tree. I don't care, but it's being able to hear that still small voice.
It's time to celebrate the Wealth Alchemist podcast with a giveaway. We are celebrating 1 year of the Wealth Alchemist podcast. It's hard to believe that this show has been gracing the airways for a year now, and it feels like I'm only just beginning. In the past year, this show has top charted in, are you ready to hear this? This is crazy and amazing, 13 countries. And it's being listened to by thousands of people in 54 countries around the world. It truly blows my mind. It is an absolute joy and honor to to be bringing these amazing conversations to the table for discussion. Thank you so much for listening and being here on this journey with me. To celebrate this huge moment in time, I'm doing a giveaway. There's a few things to win. The first one is I'm going to make you a customized crystal necklace just for you. It's one of a kind. I've been doing this for a hobby and people want to buy them for me whenever I wear my necklaces. So I decided one lucky listener will win a piece that I make just for you. You also get a signed copy of my book, The New Wealth, Magnetize Abundance, Hold Your Wealth and Leave a Legacy. A journal sponsored by the Dames, which is a group of 6 to 7 figure women in biz to connect and collaborate. And there will be some fun skincare from Beauty Counter, my fave skincare products for reverse aging thrown in too. This is priceless. And you got to be in it to win it. So, how do you win? 1, subscribe to the Wealth Alchemist podcast if you haven't already. Number 2, leave a review. Please, if you are listening, take a moment right now to leave a review on iTunes. This really helps me get the message in front of more people because, you know, algorithms and such. And number 3, share. Take your fave episode of the podcast and share it on social media. Tag me in it so I can see. If you can't decide which is your fave, I get it. There's a lot of great conversations. So you can share more than one for more chances to win. Thank you from my whole heart. Thank you for being here and listening each week. You are amazing and I'm so grateful that you are here. Together, we rise. So let's help more people hear this message and shift the wealth consciousness of this planet. Just so you know, the celebration is running through the month of December. I will pick a lucky winner and announce in Jan. Happy manifesting to win your prize.
So if you weren't worried about protecting yourself from playing for fear you're going to get knocked out, how do you want to show up in the world powerfully?
Presence. Like, it's interesting because the thing that I've been playing with over this last few days as I've been in this, it's like, okay, imagining this, like if I imagine myself on the stage and I can imagine myself in peace and presence and like an open channel, like nothing else freaking matters except for what's coming through me. That's how I want to feel through all of it, through all of life, really.
You're creating that right now. It's not how you want to feel. Because when you say that's how I want to feel, it's as if you have nothing to do with it. That's what you're creating right now. It's peaceful presence and open channel. And you know what? You might get bonked in the nose, but who cares? Because you're being true to yourself. Like, oops, another ball to the face. Whoops, another ball to the face. Whoops. You know, for me, it was, I took on being a tall poppy in 2019, got my head lopped off this way and that way. Oops, there it goes again. Bam, there it goes again. Okay, there it goes. So now the practice is how quickly can you get from below the line to above the line? How quickly can you catch the reactivity and return yourself to that true north for you of peaceful presence, being an open channel, like a taproot sunk deep into the ground, that it doesn't matter what's coming your way because you know you're anchored.
I have to add playful in there too.
Okay. Peaceful, open, peaceful, and playful.
Yeah.
I tell people to like pick 3 and stick with them because my overachievers want way more. I'm like, stop. I want to be peaceful, playful, joyful, curious, determined, and committed. And then a week later, I'm like, so what did you create? I don't know. Exactly. Oh, people, you're killing me, Smalls. Yeah. I mean, in a nutshell, that's the work that I do with my clients when I do the Imposter Syndrome workshop, right? Because what we're doing is we're awakening greatness. Average leaders think knowledge is power. Great leaders trust the process of discovery and wonder and really get that seeing the unseen is their key to a competitive edge, to exponential leadership, and things work 10 times faster.
I love that you said seeing the unseen. Go further into that. So the great leaders say seeing the unseen.
Yeah, because you couldn't see what we just went through, right? It was hidden from your view. So there's a Kohan that says bird to air, fish to water, human being unto itself. Bird doesn't know it's in air till it's not. Fish doesn't know it's in water until it's not. Human being doesn't know it's having a human experience until we're dead. And by that time, it's a little late. So when you're in this moment of curiosity and discovery, and truly when you're in a group of people committed to that, or working with a coach like me or like you that also is committed to people seeing the unseen, I don't give people what they cannot see, I ask questions. What do you see? What happened? So where does that map on your life? You're like, oh, well, this conference, exactly. The logic becomes inescapable. So that's what I mean by seeing the unseen. It's, you can't see the back of your head unless I'm looking in a mirror. I can't turn around quick enough. What we want to do is get you to see the back of your head in a moment, but it's only a moment. So you got the tip of something, but the tip of the iceberg isn't what sunk the Titanic. It was everything else below the line that did. Right. Yeah. So that's why all this reactivity that's happening 80, 85, 90, 95%, we want to keep catching.
So the intention being that I feel like, for anyone listening, because this is for everybody,
right?
Not just me.
Right. You happen to be the one,
to be the conduit today.
Yeah, exactly.
I know I'm not alone. Okay. So I feel into the, who am I? I'm like, oh, I see that. I feel that. Okay. I got it. I'm in the anxiety. I'm in the whatever the symptom is that I'm feeling like, okay, here's the who am I part. And then I immediately, so this is what I've been working on. So basically doing this thing, right? Like then I go into, okay, the peaceful present state. And I just come into this place in my body and I allow myself to be there in this moment. Or is there more to it?
Yes. And so I always, I have clients that will sit in meetings and put their fingers together because they have to remind themselves to stay above the line because they're reacting. So I have one client who, when she was 9, her version of imposter syndrome is she really identified with a competency type of being a perfectionist, getting it right. So she's 9 and she brings home a C on her report card, and her dad's a military guy. Catherine, what's up with the C? And she goes, well, Dad, it's average. Give me 1,500 words on being mediocre. Average is mediocre. Like embarrassed, disappointed. Dad, who's her idol, I never want to get it wrong. I'm always going to get it right. I'm going to know all the answers, which propelled her to great heights. This is why I call it, you make imposter syndrome your superpower, because that thing that you're compensating for, the way you became to compensate for who you thought you were lacking, for you, it was playful, I think, at that time when you were a little one, has become kind of a superpower for you and propelled you to great heights. But for my client, it sucked working for her because she was always making sure everyone else got it right. And if she got one little thing wrong, she would beat herself up for days. And she was really her own worst enemy. So she would sit in meetings, right? Like this, like recognizing the moments where she was below the line, body sensations, moods, attitudes, the thoughts she was thinking. And so part of it is you look for the red flags and early warning signs. And then she would ask herself, well, if all this wasn't there, if we moved all of it away, how do you want to show up? And her first answer was curious. And I said, okay, this is the yes and part. How are you going to practice being curious? If I was a fly on the wall, how would I see you being curious? And she said, I don't know. So, well, what if I started my conversations with, I'm curious. Did you say X to mean Y? Nope, I didn't. I said X to say X. Oh, okay. And she stopped taking things personally and she stopped making assumptions. So for you, when you think about, it's not just dropping into your body, what's a practice in real time, in reality, distance, time, and form that someone could witness you practicing, and you're not stuck with that practice. You experiment with it. So what would be something you would do to really have you embody peaceful, playful, and open?
Something that I would do, is that what you're saying? A practice I would do?
An action. Yep. In real time, in distance, time, and form.
Peaceful, playful, and open. My quantum flow practice.
What's that?
It's a movement practice that brings me into presence, can be fun.
Well, what if you're on stage and you're in front of 3,000 people?
No, I don't. Oh, no, then it's breath. Then it comes down to breath.
Okay, great. So what kind of breath?
Not a short one, a big one, a deep one.
Like a deep breath. Okay, great. So that's the practice, is to take a deep breath when you notice it. And you might want to add some sound to that. You're not going to do that on stage, of course. It could be curling your toes. It could be squeezing your butt closed because that makes you giggle, like, hee, I'm going to squeeze my butt closed. I don't know, because that's kind of silly. Nobody else knows I'm doing kegels on stage, but I do. My husband's going to be happy. I don't know. He'd bring one of my big things is bringing play into thing. So something that you can practice. Now I'd say to you, all right, Carrie, you're going to go off and practice those deep breaths. You come back to me, you're like, well, it worked the first time. It didn't work after that. Great. We're not going to use that anymore. Clearly that is not a strong enough action to intervene and disrupt that brain pattern. Let's brainstorm some more. And then you pick another one to go off and practice with, because it's all about experimentation. You're not stuck with anything. And maybe peaceful, open, and playful isn't it for you. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. So it's all about experimentation and recognizing that as humans, we're not some fixed object like the computer screen or the microphone. That's why it's called neuroplasticity, because your brain is malleable. Therefore, you're malleable.
I love it. Okay. I have another question.
Yes.
You mentioned warning signs. Are there common warning signs that, like, across the board, many people have for imposter syndrome type things? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I don't know. It's distinct for people. So for example, I wouldn't say it's common for everybody, but I had one client who a situation happened when she was in 4th grade and she was embarrassed in front of her class. So much like me, imposter syndrome does not arise when she's going to meet with someone of authority. It's when she's thinking about presenting to her peers. And that's why I also say, check in with your body. Sometimes for women, a common one is feeling pressure in your throat, because women are trained to, be the second and not speak up. And that's not just in this lifetime. This is generational. Right. Where women were exchanged as a product.
It's so funny when I found out I was speaking, it's all happened pretty fast. Like it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago that I found out I was speaking. And immediately it was like the day after, my kids had already had like a cough, like one of those. I mean, okay, you guys, it wasn't COVID.
No, I'm not even smirking because of that. Keep going.
But you know what I mean, right? So they had a cough and I could feel, I was like, oh, stay away. Not them stay away, but I could feel like my own, like it was starting. So like the day after this found out, all of a sudden this cough comes, the sore throat comes. 4 days later, I couldn't talk. And I was like, really, world? Really? This is what you want to do to me? I was like, thank God I have a few weeks to come over. But literally it was, I think last week where I stopped having like throat lozenges things, because my throat was so sore. It was like nails going through my throat. And I was like, you're hilarious, universe. I get it. I see you.
Well, that's the Louise Hay's book, right? Heal your body, heal your life.
It was like, oh, you don't want me to speak after I just got invited to the speaking gig? Oh, you're so funny. Let me just laugh about that for a minute.
Yes. But I also would say to you, if you came to me, you're like, what do I do? I would say, what aren't you saying? What are you afraid to say?
Right.
You're going to get your nose punched. Okay, good. Write out, say all the things to me that you're afraid to say.
All the things Yep.
What are you afraid of coughing up? Might be one thing I'd ask. Okay, you have a cough. Great. It's sort of like a hairball. What's the hairball you're avoiding saying? I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Got it. You're human. What else?
Totally. I mean, that's what it was. Like immediately I just was like, cause I understand that as well. Like the body and the way we speak.
Yeah. You
and
get that.
Just made me laugh. So I laugh at myself. I'm like, of course you did. Of course you did, body. Like, but it's so true. Like we do these things as symptoms in our bodies to show us like, oh yeah, here's that thing you don't want to look at. Look at me.
Yep, exactly. Check in, right? Body is a pendulum. What is the body trying to tell us? That's why I often talk about embodied leadership. That's why when I take people through this guided meditation, it's much longer. It's like 10 minutes, but I'm like, notice where you're holding tension in your body. A lot of people literally clench their butt cheeks.
Totally do.
Like clench their butthole.
Totally.
Because that's the root chakra and it's safety and I'm afraid, I notice for myself, I will push myself back. Like if I start to get triggered, somebody else pointed out to me, they're like, oh yeah, you pushed yourself back for the table. I'm like, yeah, I was out of there. I did not want to be there anymore. I'm like, ooh, it was that obvious, huh? Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was interesting. I remember a while ago, speaking of clenching our butt cheeks, this was an interesting thing I'll add here because I think it's a very phenomenal comment that you made.
Yeah.
I went a few years ago to a goddess retreat and we were doing Yoni steams.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So for those of people who are listening who don't know what a Yoni steam is, you literally put yourself over like a hot steaming bowl of water with usually with
Herbs.
some herbs in it to
Yep.
open up your yoni. And this woman who was doing them with us, we were talking about eggs, yoni eggs. And she was like, I don't believe in putting yoni eggs in. And we were like, that's so interesting. Why? She's like, because women already clench enough. Like, you guys are already too tight. You're already holding everything in. If anything, you need to loosen. And if you go and put that in, especially, she's like, I think there was ways like you can do it, like that it's restful, that you're in, that you're using it as something, as a tool to help you open.
Right.
But she's like, there's some people who use it as like a, to clench, to tighten, and I think for some people who have like issues around continence and things like that, that's important. But also she was like, and is it like, is that really the tool? Because are you still actually holding too tight? And it's so interesting, like how we tend to close in, sorry. And so it's just an invitation for everybody here, like pay attention right now as we're speaking about this. Every single human, I would say, especially women that's listening, like, are you right now clenching your anal yoni area, like holding in? Because we can all, it's definitely something I can think about, like, relax. And when you start to relax there, everything from that point relaxes and opens. Absolutely. And like, this is our seed of creation. And so when we close it, it's like we're closing this portal of creation. And so
money, creation, power, and money. Mm-hmm. That's money too, because money's energy, money's a currency.
Root. It's where it comes in.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
So a little bit off subject, not really.
Not really, because this is really quickly, people are always, when I meditate, or listening to other people doing meditations, or like, imagine a light coming down from heaven. I'm like, I'm pulling light up through my yoni from the center of the earth. At the same time, I'm pulling it through heaven, because you can't forget that piece. It is cyclical. It's not just top down. It is bottom up, because that is an open passageway that energy comes in. But yeah, we got off topic, but that's okay.
Totally.
I can talk about yonis for days.
I like talking about yonis.
I like my yoni and I don't care.
It was also something that came to me as you were talking too, that I don't remember how this even came to me. It was around like, as we move forward into a lot of these imposter syndrome concepts, I think one of the things that I have found as I move forward, and I think this is something that, like, as we're expanding into new territory, right? Like, we don't actually know. We don't know. We're expanding somewhere we've never been. And so what I have learned is, like, we have to actually surrender into, it could completely and utterly fail in front of us. We could completely flop. It could go completely wrong. Like, I'm not going to say all the things I could do wrong. So don't want to call it in. But a lot of things could happen that are not of the greatest experience in life. And we can be embarrassed. We can be shamed. We can be judged. We can be all of these things. And I think it's like part of the journey is actually being willing to go and do it anyway. You know?
Yeah. Because I would say to somebody, so what? What are you committed to? Are you more committed to making a difference? Are you more committed to playing small? And that's really the moment. That's that whole idea of above the line or below the line. What are you committed to? When I say, are you committed to staying above the line? Are you committed to showing up as a peaceful, playful, open warrior goddess on stage, having a conversation about crypto, which is talk about seeing the unseen. Who could have said 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, right? That things would be where they are right now. Not a heck of a lot of people could have predicted that. Rainer Maria Rilke, one of my favorite philosophers, talks about loving the questions. Love the questions like locked doors to a room, because you're not ready to live into the answers. And if you learn to love the questions, then one day, before too long, you'll find yourself living into the answers without any effort.
That's beautiful. It's like, I mean, the thing that comes to me is like the what if question. It's like we can what if spiral up. I've talked about this on the show before. But for those who haven't heard it, like I say often, like I ask the what if question, and the what if, oftentimes when we ask that what if question, most minds, as you said, the 95% will take us downwards and go, what if I fall on my face? What if they hate me? What if they throw apples at me? What if? But like, actually, what if you go the what if it's amazing? What if I kick ass? What if they all love me and they send me amazing gifts and messages? And what if
you're invited to speak on a stage in Paris?
Yes.
What if you're invited to be interviewed by Forbes magazine? Right. I love that. I love that.
What if we ask the inquiries, and I think, it comes to this, as you said, questions, the quality of your life is dependent on the quality of questions that we ask. And so I think that's a huge thing with our imposter syndrome stuff. It's like, even though, we're sitting here talking about this, but I've been working through this over this last week. And the questions I've been asking, of course, are like these empowering questions that will move me up, as you're saying, above the line versus below. And I think that's such a great comment that you made, because it's like, think about what you're asking yourself. Think about what you're filtering into your mind. Are you setting yourself up through the imposter syndrome to go up around it?
Well, are you trying to control something? That's really this whole business of overcoming is about control. You can't control embarrassment. You can't control nervousness. It's just like breathing. It's gonna happen. Question is, who are you going to be in the face of it?
You're going to take a damn breath and you're going to go forward.
Exactly. And you're going to be brilliant, because you are.
Yes. Amazing. Okay. I know we have to wrap, because I know you have to get going. So is there anything you would like to leave everybody with this conversation?
Well, I'd give them some places to find out more about me. I have a quiz, JenCokenQuiz.com, JenCoken quiz.com. If you want to get into the weeds a little bit more about your competency type. And I have a Facebook group, Make Imposter Syndrome Your Superpower. And they can also find out there or from my website about the workshops that I have coming up, JenCoken.com.
Fantastic. And any last words of wisdom?
You're human. It's a thing we always forget we're human, having we're spirit, right? In a human existence, having a human experience, because that's what we wanted. We wanted to feel those highs and lows. Just don't let yourself drown in the lows. Like you said, ask the questions, spiral up, start to notice the triggers as triggers, distinct from I'm sad. No, you're not. You're having the body is having a reaction called grief, called sadness. It's natural for whatever you're dealing with. Went on a date really quickly last night with this guy, thought it was going to be great. He wasn't for me. And I'm not usually this good at it, but I was like, I'm so sorry, but I just don't feel chemistry like it's anything more than friends. And he said, well, I'm glad you told me now, and we gave each other a hug and walked away. And I sent him a note and said, thanks for the coffee conversation. He's like, yeah, I was going to tell you the same thing. And I wrote back and said, you're a really sweet guy. You're going to meet the right woman. You keep putting positive vibes out there. Well, I think I'm going to take a break. I can't stand all this rejection. My feelings getting so hurt. And I was like, whoa. It's like, I am so sorry. I really didn't mean to hurt your feelings, but I had sadness for him coming up. That's natural. I care about people. I don't want to hurt that person, but it would have hurt worse if I had kept going on dates with them when I wasn't into them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So cut yourself a break. You're human. Question is always, who are you going to be in the face of whatever you're up to? Make a difference. That's what I keep telling myself. I'm here to make a contribution, make a difference. And that always has me kind of straighten up my true north and let all the feelings and reactions lie. Because, you'll be up there. You'll have heart palpitations. It's okay. You'll speak anyway. Because
your words will come out of my mouth. Yes.
Exactly.
Thank you, Jen. This has been so beautiful. Such a wonderful conversation. I'm really excited for everybody who's listened to this. I hope that you've gotten some really great tidbits out of this for yourself. And I'm going to say Jen and I both love hearing from the people who listen to our work. So please feel free to reach out to both of us. Let us know what you've taken away from this. And otherwise, have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much, Jen, for being here and bringing your absolute brilliance to the show. I have loved being with you.
I have loved being with you too. I love being in your orbit. Makes me happy.
And thanks for calming my nerves a little bit as I go on stage tomorrow.
You're going to kick butt, girlfriend. I know that already. You're going to make such a huge difference. I know that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Wow.
Just a quick break from the show to let you in on a new, exciting, and free training for you. You have been asking, and so I am delivering. I am going to be running a free 5-day Intro to Crypto live experience. Do you want to know how to get your first coins in crypto? Has the thought of educating yourself to learn the tech to do this been a stopping point for you? If so, I'm doing a free 5-day Intro to Crypto live training that will show you how to buy your first coins. It's time to stop making excuses. I want to make this as easy as possible for you. Hey, I'm not a tech person and I can do this. And if I can do this, so can you. Not only that, but I'm teaching my 8 and 12-year-old how to do this. So if I can teach them, then I can definitely show you. If this intrigues you, come and join me for free at www.carrienorley.com/crypto intro. Again, that's carrienorley.com/crypto intro. I look forward to seeing you there and celebrating you as you take your first steps into the wonderful world of crypto. And now, back to the show.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you love what you heard, please help us get this message out to more people, because together we rise. Please review it, subscribe to the show, and share on social media. When you share, please tag me. On Insta, I'm at Carrie Norley, and on Facebook, I'm facebook.com/CarrieNorley1, or Carrie Kaplan Norley is my official name there. Please come and connect with me on social media and say hello. I love hearing from my listeners. And thank you so much for your support. I'm so excited to help you bring in the new wealth.